Hey, what's up guys, it's Apollo Uchiha here back with another part of What If Naruto and Konoha Watch the Future. And yeah guys, today is going to be a double upload, and I will be also be uploading What If Naruto Was a Psychopath Part 2 as well. And if you haven't, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. And I yesterday uploaded a movie, it was quite late, so yeah, if you haven't checked that out, please check that out as well. It's quite similar to this series, to be honest. And yeah guys, without further ado, let's continue our story. After Sakura's future was ended and seen by all, Ino was fuming. She could not believe what that last glimpse had shown her. How was it possible that forehead girl had won over Sasuke? She knew for a fact that she was by far the prettier of the two, so why in the seven hells did Sasuke choose Sakura over her? Perhaps the forehead girl had drugged her poor Sasuke-kun, or trapped him in some kind of genjutsu. Yeah, that must be it. She thought as she watched the current Sakura draw closer to the current Sasuke. And surprisingly enough, he didn't pull away or chastise her for her advances. That does it! Ino raged in her mind. Don't worry, Sasuke-kun. Your beautiful Ino-chan will save you from that forehead girl. So with her mission in mind, the blonde Yamanaka rushed to the ceiling matrix before flooding it with her chakra, smirking as the screen flashed to life. Just you wait, Sasuke-kun. And Sakura, you wait too. Sasuke will be mine again. The mind of a fangirl. Anyways, onto the screen. Where the hell is he? An irate Ino roared at apparently no one. Back with the audience, most of the occupants were taken back from Ino's loud voice. Meanwhile, a certain Nara muttered something about blondes getting more troublesome in the future. Back with the screen, the resident Yamanaka was not the happiest of campers at the moment. Her beautiful face contoured into a fierce scowl. The female member of the Shika Inocho formation glared at apparently nothing, not noticing the ahem being born man inching away from her with each passing second. The man was plumped and stood proud at an respectable height, just short of 180 centimeters, dressed in red clothing with grey armor. The man clenched his bag of chips and moved towards his male counterpart, standing beside him with an expression that said, "I'd rather be anywhere but here." The figure sighed at his teammate's loud screech. Black shinobi pants that led to the plain black t-shirt. Everything about the man screamed, "I'm too lazy to care." Reaching into the inside pocket of his cream jacket, the man produced a single cigarette. Back with the audience. "Oh look, it's future us," Ino squealed as she observed how their future counterparts were dressed. Nodding inversely, she was pleased with the apparel she would grow up to wear. A common practice among the shinobi was the fact that they would buy multiple copies of the same clothing they wore as a sort of trademark for themselves. And her future self surely had style, what she could concur, wearing a collarless purple blouse that exposed her midriff. The younger Yamanaka realized that she had grown to abandon the bandages she usually wore around her stomach. This was followed by a ankle-length skirt of the same color with someone and somehow gave a seductive charm without exposing any skin. In her terms, absolutely perfect. Her father, however, had different thoughts, which he was not hesitant to make notice. "Absolutely not!" He basically screamed. "There is no way in hell I'm allowing you to leave the house dressed like that." "But daddy," she tried to protest, but was cut off by the overprotective Yamanaka head. "Listen here, there is no way, and I mean absolutely no way am I allowing you to leave that house like that, young lady," he ranted. "I don't know what the hell my future self is thinking about that, but your mother and I completely disagree, right, hon?" At this point, the man had turned towards his wife, sitting to his right. The woman was quiet and sat with a small smile on her face, her brown hair caught in a bun with a few strands framing both sides of her face. The woman had the look and feel of a noble and classy lady. "I don't know, honey. I think she looks splendid, in my opinion," the woman commented, secretly loving the betrayed expression on her husband's face. While she knew he had the best of intentions, she also knew that the man had the habit of overreacting and playing the part of an overprotective papa bear, and she just loved messing with him. Not that she would admit it out loud, though. "See, mom agrees with me," defended. "Plus, with the way I look, Sasuke-kun would surely be crawling back to me." Hehehe. Added in her mind. "You're still too troublesome." Back with the orb, the smoker of the group said. "Plus, none of the other brats are here. So just relax, the man tried to explain to the mindwalker, taking a long drag of the smoke stick between his hips. The man was surprised when the cigarette was yanked away. His eyes narrowing in irritation, the man was greeted with the annoyed scowl of the blonde Konomichi. Unlike your son Shikara, my little Inojin is an obedient child who knows the importance of training, she lectured Shikamaru, as Shikamaru could only listen and shrug in response. What? It was true, and he wouldn't deny it. His son was a lazy bastard, and he was damn proud of it. Hell, he even encouraged it, as long as it didn't turn out to be anything like his mother. Throwing the cigarette to the ground, she proceeded to crush the stick beneath her sandals. And how many times am I going to tell you that you should stop smoking? I swear you're worse than Asuma sensei. Back with the audience, suddenly Asuma yelped and flew from his seat. Someone had poked him with something sharp. Glancing around, he noticed the glare of a certain red-eyed genjutsu mistress and silently swore that no matter what, he would not allow Shikamaru to smoke, at least not in front of her. Back with the screen, troublesome blonde, he muttered under his breath. It wasn't smoking that killed Asuma sensei, he muttered before quickly apologizing when he saw the visible flinch on the mention of their late sensei. I'm sorry, it's just... Yeah, I understand, the Yamanaka murmured. The three shared a look of silence. Back with the artist. I'm dead? Asuma uttered in shock. Sure, he knew the life of a shinobi was usually a short one, but to know that you wouldn't live to see your students grow and raise their own family was a whole other level. Shikamaru could only spare a short glance at the man he had come to know as his sensei. Sure, they had only met just yesterday, but if his future self was anything to go by, he had come to know the man as a close friend and a treasured comrade. That means that this is one thing we're going to change in future. Korone spoke up suddenly, with finality in her tone, that sure she would accept no arguments. Back with the screen. Speaking of Asuma sensei, how is Mirai holding up? Back with the audience. Mirai? Who's that? Korone asked, secretly worried that Asuma was dating another woman before he died. Kakashi, seeing where Korone's lines of reasoning was heading, reasoned that a bit of fun wouldn't hurt anyone, so he decided to antagonize the younger Sarutobi in the room. Perhaps she's a lady friend of his. We may never know. Needless to say, Asuma was not amused with the silver-haired man trying to mess up his relationship with Korone. Back with the screen. She's doing fine, Shikamaru answered, drawing another cigarette from the coat. She just made Chunin a while ago, so there is no doubt Korone sensei is proud of her. I'm sure Asuma sensei would be proud of her too. Of course, any father would be proud. I'm sure of it, she answered before yanking the new cigarette from Shikamaru's lips and giving him the same treatment. Back with the screen. I'm a dad! Asuma exclaimed. The Johnny Rank Sarutobi was near the point of fainting at the first moment. First he found out he was going to die soon enough, and now he had a daughter. And if he understood the conversation, then his mother was no doubt. Yosh, Asuma and Korone, both of you have shown us the flame of youth, that your flames will shine brightly. Come, Lee, we must train so we too can match their flames of youth. The ever-exuberant guy shouted, not noticing the red tint on both Jonin's faces. Yes, Guy-sensei, Lee, Guy-sensei, Lee, Guy-sensei, Lee, Guy-sensei. Back with the screen. Oi, what was that for? Shikamaru incredulously asked in a loud tone. He was pissed off that she kept taking his cigarettes. Ino glared at the ponytail man and huffed before crossing her arms beneath her sizable bust. Do you honestly think I'm going to let you smoke yourself to your grave? Come on, Choji, tell him how bad smoking is for him. The large Akamichi glanced at the two teammates. Why was it that they always did this to him? The two would usually get into an argument and would ask him to be their deciding factor. Most time he would usually decide in Ino's favor, knowing that Shikamaru would simply forgive him the next second. After all, who would want an angry Ino on their case? Not him, obviously. But this time, however, Choji chose to simply sit this one out. So he shrugged before digging back into his large bag of chips. Shikamaru smirked at Choji's decision, knowing that this action left the trio at an impassive meaning. He could do whatever the hell he wanted, granted himself a victory smirk. Shikamaru pulled his last cigarette from the pack and placed it between his lips. Perhaps his fatal mistake was that loud sigh of content, or the fact that he blew smoke in the direction of the blonde that led to his ultimate defeat. Not too sure what had caused it though, but Shikamaru was about to one-upped by the mindfucker when she decided to use a blow the bell tactic, a move that easily ranked amongst the like of do not kick a dude in the nuts in the rule book of dirty tricks, right behind never steal icha icha from one Kakashi Harake, a tick so callous that it brought fear to the married men of the Nara clan for generations, which was also the reason why most persons believed that the Nara men were secretly masochist. Yup, that's right, she used the wife card. Then maybe I should just tell Tamari about this then, she sang sweetly to horror of Shikamaru. You wouldn't. Try me, she prompted. The man glared for a moment before sighing in defeat, wishing for Choji to follow him. He set off in the direction of the village, under his breath mumbling something about troublesome wives. Back with the audience, Shikaku shot his son a look of sympathy. I understand, Brad. It's a Nara fate to land ourselves troublesome wives, no matter how unfortunate it is. For a man of his intelligence, that was probably the stupidest thing he could have said in that situation. Seeing that his wife was right next to him, poor Shikaku, he never saw the frying pan coming. Better question though, where did she get the frying pan from? Back with the screen. Where are you guys heading? Ino asked as she observed her two teammates heading back to the village. The trio had decided to head out to the forest where their kids would meet them so they could train the next Shikacho generation. Back to the village. Choji's probably has to head home before Karuis get mad, and I need to get back to work before Naruto burns down the village. And I need a new pack of cigarettes anyway, Shikamaru answered as he continued to walk away. What about training? Our kids are going to be here any minute. No, they're not, If they were, they would be here already. Knowing Shikarai, he probably chose to head home, the sneaky bastard. Now that I think about it, Tamari did say her brothers were visiting today. Chocho more than likely is eating dangos with Anko, and Inojin wouldn't come near you without the other two, so he's probably hiding somewhere. Back with the audience. Ha! Even your own son is afraid to go near you, Ino pig. Shut up, forehead girl. Back with the screen. Ino took a moment to process Shikamaru's words before reluctantly nodding in agreement. That did sound like something their kids would do. Muttering, she followed after her two teammates, leaving the small clearing. A few moments later, the left two figures made themselves known in the same small clearing. Back with the audience. Whoa, who the hell are those guys? Kiba remarked out loud. By the looks of them and their headbands, they are Konoha. The third answered. But that man, I have no idea who he is. And I know all my shinobis. Back with the orb. One was a tall man and the other was a boy, who admittedly looked a lot like a girl. The man had short jet black hair, while the boy had blonde hair, kept in a ponytail, but that was where the difference ended. Both males had translucent pale skin and identical gears, dark gray and black jacket that exposed their midriffs, and black shinobi trousers with red backpacks. The most noticeable feature of the males were their smiles, however, smiles that seemed fake, yet you could tell that they were real and heartfelt. The two figures dropped from a branch, where the younger of the two spoke first. Thanks, Dad. I'm not sure what I would do or would I have done without you. This boy spoke with relief. In his eyes were the telltale signs of the true fear, something the boy had come to know that only his mother could instill in him. No worries, I know firsthand what your mother is like when she's angry, the man stated, his smile slightly growing as he ruffled his son's hair. I'll tell Ino that I saw you over at Sarada's house. She should buy that for now. But you, a couple of hours while she talks to Ugly. Thanks again, Dad, the boy said as he ran off to where who knows to God. Back with the screen. Back with the audience. With that, the screen slowly faded and transformed back to the series of scribbles. Was that my husband? Ino asked slowly as she put the pieces together. So it seems, and I was right to say that your son was hiding somewhere. Shikamaru answered as Choji snickered at the next generation Yamanaka. But who could blame him? He would rather hide than comfort Ino when she wasn't in the right mood. Breaking the three from the conversation, the loud voice of Naruto broke all the others from their speculations of the future. What's wrong, Sakura-chan? The boy asked in concern. Did that pale-faced bastard just call me ugly? She roared. When indignation, there was no way she would take that lying down. No, sorry. And inner Sakura was in complete agreement. Blinking, Ino found herself laughing out loud when she realized that her husband had indeed called Sakura ugly. Blinking away the tears that formed throughout her laughter, Ino managed to say something in between laughs. It's no wonder why I married him. The guy's a genius, and he isn't too bad on the eyes either. She stated, the topic of Sasuke at the back of the mind. Crawling Sakura decided to leave the man's punishment for later and asked who would like to go next. Sakura refused to look at Ino as the blonde Konoichi laughed out loud at the nickname her future husband had gifted her. The pinkhead had decided to look at the silver lining of it all, the fact that she had Sasuke-kun all to herself now. That thought alone seemed to delay the ticking time bomb that was Sakura's temper. Keyword of the statement being delay, not diffuse. She would get her revenge on that pale-faced bastard. I mean shinobi. Of course, we will. Shan Naro. Inner Sakura roared to life. I know. I would like to go next. A meek voice spoke up, volunteering herself next. Sakura spun on her heels to meet Hinata's gaze, although the timid girl ducked under the sudden attention. Are you sure, Hinata? Corney asked her student and Pasedo ward. Honestly, she wouldn't thought the girl would have spoken up to her see her future, having already assumed that Hinata would have faded into the background until she was the only one left. Although, when she saw the girl cast a glance to the apparent Hokage to be, a coy grin slipped on her face. Something Hiyashi also noticed but decided to hold his tongue, for now at least. Hi, Korone-sensei. The slight introvert responded before leaving her seat. Wedged between her two male partners, standing atop of the ceiling matrix, the girl twinkled her thumb before a ceiling matrix came to life. She concentrated her chakra. This is it, she thought. Sakura married Sasuke, so that means that Naruto must have given up on her. Her heart thumped and raced at the implications. Maybe, just maybe, I would end up with Naruto. She didn't know how right she was. At this scream, Kasan! A loud voice sounded with a giggle. It was another sunny day in Konoha. Our scene takes us to a moderate house located near the marketplace of Konoha, but far away that the loud bustling noise didn't disturb the occupants. The house was cylindrical in shape, with separate wings occupied the cozy compound, with the orange tilt roof and a cream coated of paint. The house was simplistic and homely. Back with the audience, Hinata froze in fear. She had learned back in the academy that the Hokages were required to live in the Hokage mansion built near the Hokage Tower. And for what she seen and knew, that building was not the Hokage Tower, which means that I didn't marry Naruto-kun, she concluded dejectedly. With Hinata failed to remember, however, was the fact that while the Hokage was required to live in the Hokage mansion, not all the Hokages did that. In fact, the fourth Hokage was the first to have not lived in the Hokage mansion. Coincidentally enough, his son was the second Hokage to have bypassed that rule. Back with the orb, inside the house, a sign could be heard as the lady of the house got up from the table and rolled up the scarf she was knitting. Dark blue hair fell to back in a hime cut with two bangs framing her face. Reaching just past her shoulders, lavender eyes twinkled in bemusement. With the soft, delicate features and a crazed physique, the woman seemed like a beautiful Proclean doll, fragile to touch yet mesmerizing to look at. She wore a white blouse with a lavender apron thrown over it, with dark blue pants stopping at her shin. The matriarch finished her look with blue heel sandals. This was Hinata Uzumaki, formerly known as the Yuga clan. Back with the audience, Kiba couldn't help but whistle in appreciation of his teammate. The years had really treated her well, better than most Konoichi. He had thought that perhaps Ino would have been the one to take the spot as the hottest Konoichi of their group, but he was wrong as hell. Where Ino was smoking hot and seductive, Hinata possessed a charm more on the purer side on the spectrum, and he would congratulate the lucky bastard who ended up with her as a wife. Glancing over at his teammate, Kiba noticed that Shino had both eyebrows raised. Something he came to understand was the way that quiet bug user expressed shock. Eh? Something wrong, Shino? Kiba asked. Yes, there is something that is bothering me. It would appear to me that Hinata has chosen to retire from the Shinobi Corps. Why, you ask? Her retire indicates that she has chosen a more domesticated lifestyle. While it could be argued that she is perhaps taking a short break from work, the fact that she is not wearing a headband coupled with the fact that she is not armed, leads me to believe that this is a more permanent fixture than a break. And with the added details that she is apparently a mother, leads me to conclude that she is chosen to become a housewife. Shino explained his logical conclusion, hitting the nail right on the head. Shikamaru, alongside his father, nodded their heads in agreement, with the Aburama's conclusion having reached the same. Beside them, Yashi frowned. Something caught Hinata caught, sighed and flinched. Back with the screen. I'm in here, she called out to whoever it was that had called her. Waiting a few seconds, she was not disappointed when the door pushed open and she was tackled by a blur of blue and gold. Using grace and skills that betrayed her looks, she caught the small figure by their waist and spun the child in air, dictating a fit of giggles. As they came to a stop, the child features were finally brought into view. Back with the audience. For Hinata, the room vanished and the floor underneath dissolved into nothing. She was numb to the world as she focused on her daughter's feature, dark blue hair, just like her own, with hairstyle mostly similar to one she spotted now. The small girl, maybe 5 or 6 year old, wore the cutest of gold blouse and with a pair of puffy pink shorts. Her facial features was a reminiscent of Hinata's when she was the age, and her striking blue eyes were as clear as the sky, but the real standout feature of the toddler were the whisker-like birthmarks on her both sides of cheeks. Just like needless to say, Hinata fainted as soon after that. Kurenai smiled faintly. She may not have the highest opinion of the boy now, but due to the QB, but more so about his rowdy behavior. But it was obvious that he had grown into a splendid man. If he was given the title of Hokage, plus he was obvious that the boy would make her change and take her charge of leading her towards a happy life. Hinata's face was an indication. Kurenai paused when Hinata giggled lightly and her face colored as red as a tomato in her state of unconsciousness. Just what the hell was Hinata imagining? You don't wanna know, but to give you a hint, it included whips, chains, and ramen. The author shakes his head. It always the quiet ones that get you, don't they? Whoa, didn't see that one coming, Tenten commented. While she knew the Hyuga hairs due to association with Neji, she also knew that the young girl pinned for the blonde's affection. This also led her to know that Naruto was denser than osmium, and that's pretty damn dense. Congratulations, Naruto-kun. Hiruzen smiled, happy to know that Naruto finally got a family he had always dreamed of. Eh? What for, Gigi? Naruto asked, absent-mindedly scratching his whiskers, obviously to the fact that the little girl on the screen possessed the same features. Tenten changed her mind. The boy wasn't dense. He was just plain stupid. Ma. Never change, Naruto. Never change. Kakashi chuckled, back with the screen. Again, Kasan, again! The girl giggled. Her infectious smile brought one to her mother's face. The little bundle of joy bounced happily along in her arms before she was set down to the floor once again. Sorry, sweetie, but mommy has to get ready. Remember? Nata apologized to her daughter, causing the girl to pout. Back with the audience, Yashi found it hard to breathe. Seeing someone who looked so much like his late wife brought back painful memories of the times when Hitomi would play with Hinata just like that. The stoic man swallowed deeply and pushed those thoughts to the back of his mind. Back with the screen. Come on, Himawari. You know we have to get going now. Hinata argued with the child. She left the room with the now identified Himawari following uncertainly behind her. Hinata left what seemed to be her private room before traversing a corridor and ending up inside the kitchen. Behind her, Himawari bounced happily, her head bobbing with every step. Kasan, are we going to visit Neji Oji-san again? Himawari asked as her mother picked up a orange bento wrapped in an orange cloth. Go figure, Hinata turned towards her daughter again, taking Himawari's left hand and leaving towards the door. At the left of the door was a rack hat, where two hats hung. Hinata took the smallest of the two and placed it on Himawari's head, and the largest rimmed headgear tilted slightly forward, shadowing her eyes. The youngest of the newest revived Uzumaki clan fumbled with that hat before pouting in defeat when her mother started to giggle at her predicament. She struck her tongue out and mumbled something about her cousin being a big meanie. Don't be like that. Come on, we're going to visit Neji Nisama today, but we have to drop off your Tosan's lunch since he left without it this morning, remember? She answered. Back with the orders, Neji frowned. Why would the young Yuga want to visit him and to call him Oji-san? Why would she do that? Fate had decided that he was to be a slave to the main branch. So why was it that the girl would talk about him in such a familiar manner? It would appear that the child is just as foolish as her mother. He huffed, his anger being the only way he knew how to deal with confusion. Hinata, who had woken up some time after her fainting, shrunk at her cousin's sharp tone. She still held hope that Neji would forget his anger for the main branch in favor of being a family like she had always wanted, but it seemed that was only a fool's dream. She reluctantly, under her words, hoped that it was not true. Naruto, however, would not. For some reason, the child on the screen brought some sense of familiarity to him, and his heart soared whenever he saw her smile. He couldn't explain it, but for some reason, he wanted to keep that smile on her face forever, and he wouldn't let some pale-eyed dude talk down to the girl that way. Jumping from his seat, he rushed over to Neji before he could blink and hoisted him by his collar in his shirt. Oi, what do you think you're talking about, a little girl like that? Naruto snarled, his eyes narrowing in a fierce glare, and his teeth grinding so hard the others in the room swore they could crackle. A low growl rumbled from his throat as he dared the Yuga to say another word. Neji, for his part, seemed unfazed by the angry rookie, trying and ultimately failing to loosen the boy's grip on him. He settled for his panted Yuga glare. Look it up. It's a real thing. Unhand me, Neji growled in retaliation, his eyes bulging slightly as he prepared to use his coveted bloodline limit. Hell no! Not until you Apollo. Whatever it was he was about to say was cut off by a stern voice of the third Hokage. Raising from his seat, the aged Kage demanded both the boys break off their confrontation. Naruto crumbled but yet still complied. Back with the screen. We're going to see your Tosan. At Hinata's note, the youngest Uzumaki seemingly sprung to life as she lashed onto her mother's hand and charged out, chanting Tosan, Tosan over and over again. Back with the audience. Aw, she's just so cute. Ino and Sakura squealed while Hinata blushed at her future daughter. Back with the screen, the mother and daughter duo walked through the streets of Konoha, each with a smile on their face. As they reached the marketplace, heading to the direction of the Hokage Tower, several civilians and ninjas alike stopped and greeted them with a small bow. Good morning, Lady Hinata, a random vendor greeted the pair. It's nice to see you, Hinata-sama, a merchant said happily, content with waving at the elegant woman. Please have a cup of tea, Lady Hinata, I insist, a female shopkeeper pressed before being declined with a polite smile, and a maybe later to state her whims. Back with the audience. Man, I gotta say, I'm sorta jealous, Ino commented playfully at Shikamaru's raised eyebrow. The Yamanaka decided to explain further. Oh, come on! All the girls in here have at least dreamed once of having all the others fawning over us. She finished with a smile. Shikamaru decided to take her words at face value. Thought to look at all the other females to see their reactions. Needless to say, he found them all too troublesome for his liking. Sakura didn't even try to hide her fantasies, giving Shikamaru a firm nod and a sly wink at an increasing paling Uchiha. Hinata was more reserved, blushing up a storm before giving a small nod. Even Kurenai-sensei shrugged nonchalantly before sheepishly nodding along. Yashi, however, had different thoughts on the matter. The man was currently caught between two minds. On one hand, he was happy that his daughter had found her place in the world. He had always feared that she was fated to be sealed and placed in the branch family. In a total non-Yuga-like manner, he chose to defy fate. He pushed her to the limits and beyond in an attempt to bring her to level acceptance of her status. He had hoped she would rise to occasion and prove her, but yet the girl had become introverted and shy. Believing that a stoic and detached manner of discipline could fix the problem, Yashi had undoubtedly made the manner worse. On the other hand, it would seem that Hinata had inevitably failed as a clan heiress and relinquished her role to another, something he felt uncomfortable about. He was raised on the traditional Yuga way, where it was the eldest child that would succeed the clan, and he had hoped his eldest daughter would fulfill this role, but he wouldn't relent on admonishing the girl. She was happy with how things turned out, and regardless of popular opinion, Hiyashi truly cared about his daughters. Both of them. He just was a traditional man who expected nothing but the best of his daughter. Back with the screens. And how is my favorite and cutest little customer doing? A male voice spoke as the mother daughter duo walked past a place of business. A wrinkled face that seemed to have not aged in decades smiled warmly as Himawari ran and leapt into his arms. His small white hat fell off as he spun her twice and chuckled deeply at her gleeful expression. Techi Gigi, Himawari greeted, pleased to see her favorite ramen chef. We're on our way to see Tosan. Then we're going to see Najioji-san. The girl explained her plans to the benefit of the man. Her placed her down on the ground, banishing the thoughts of picking her up again as she pouted cutely. Hearing a laugh, he turned to see the amused look of Hinata's face as she chased after her daughter. Well, aren't you a busy bee today? He replied to Himawari before turning to Hinata. It's good to see you again, Hinata. The man spoke, his eyes closed in greeting. Back with the audience. Come to think of it, has he ever opened his eyes? Were the thoughts of everyone. Oh well. Guess we'll never know. Back with the screen. Nice to see you too, Tenoichi-san. Though we can't stay long. We have to drop this off to my husband. She lifted the banter to his attention. Then I promised to take her to the Nejini-sama's before retiring for the day. I see, he said. Well, don't make me keep you up. We both know what's he like when he's angry. And hungry, not to say. Both adults laughed and their little joke while Himawari stood back at their mother's side, clutching to her from her blouse. He turned to the child, kneeling slightly and planted a small kiss on her cheek. Be a good girl now and come back at lunchtime with your brother, and I'll have to bring you the Uzumaki special. Ne? He laughed as the girl went starry-eyed at the thoughts of her favorite meal. Hi, Datte Basa, she shouted. Ramen! Back with the audience. Well, that proves that she's his daughter, Sasuke commented, before turning to his teammate to ask how he felt about his daughter, only to sweat drop when he saw that Naruto too had gone starry-eyed at the mention of his favorite meal. Ramen addicts, all of them, he deadpanned. Back with the screen. Himawari had only came back from her ramen bliss date when they had just reached the hallway that led to the Hokage office. The door playing the role of an oak barrier between her and her destination. Back with the screen. Back with the audience. Naruto, who had also just come from his own bliss mode, recognized the familiar hallway and was curious as to why the two were standing in front of the door. His door, he had to remind himself. What are they doing there? Aren't they going to go find Hinata's husband? Naruto allowed, hoping that someone would explain this to him. That's exactly what they're doing, Dobe, Sasuke answered. It's obvious that the girl is your daughter, so that makes Hinata as your wife. No way, Naruto responded. How do you even know that she's my daughter? It's obvious, she has the same whisker marks that you have, plus she says Tattebasa, just like your son. Sasuke stopped, seeing that Naruto had frozen, his mouth hanging open and a gaze look in his eyes. My daughter? The monkey stuttered in an uncharacteristic manner. But that's impossible. Hinata doesn't even like me. Naruto tried to view his case, oblivious to the simultaneous face palms of all the room occupants. What an idiot, they all thought. Back with the screen. The door suddenly flew open and out came a familiar feral face. Twin red fangs on each cheek. Shaggy brown hair. Slicked back with a goatee. Himawari was pointing at the man. As the man walked towards her, a grey furred jacket, ruffled with each step, tried to hide the flake vest that marked the man as a jonin. His grey shinobi pants led to the pair of black sandals as he bent to eye level with the small girl, exposing the sharper than normal canine. Her curiosity was broken from the man as a loud woof made her cast her gaze onto a large, and I mean large dog that trailed behind the man. Back with the audience. Hey look boy, it's us, Kiba commented, getting a bark from the small pup. The rest rested on his shoulders. Haha, well it looks like Akamaru has grown up to be a great partner. The loud voice of the Inuzuka clan head spoke. The Konoichi had a large smirk on her face, quite content that the small pup she knew since his birth had grown into a fine partner. That dog, he can't be Akamaru, I mean, look at him, he's huge. Naruto also eloquently slumped and summed it up what most of the rookies were thinking at the sight of Kiba and his dog. Back with the screen. Hey there, Hinata, Kiba greeted while ruffling the small girl's hair. earning himself a pout. We should be able to see him now. It's just him and Shikamaru in there, he explained, pulling his ex-teammate in a one-armed hug before heading down the hall. Good luck on your mission, Kiba-kun, and tell Shino that I said hi. She called out to her departing friend before leading her daughter into the room where they were in for an interesting sight. Apparently, Naruto didn't want to do his paperwork on his desk, so he had tried to skip out on his duties. Needless to say, his assistant was not so pleased. Dinara was resorted to using his clan shadow possession jutsu to try and force the Hokage to finish the work. Needless to say, it had dissolved into a comical game of tag. Currently, there were 5 copies of the plant bouncing from wall to wall, trying to evade the tendrils of shadow released by the slowly irritated Nara. Back with the audience, the professor could barely keep back his laughter, threatening to bubble to the surface. He was glad to hear that the boy he had come to think of as his grandson had been able to achieve his dream, but he was also able to glad to know that the boy had still been able to maintain his childlike quirks up to that point. The rookies, however, had no restraint on their laughter, only roaring louder when they saw Shikamaru got smacked with a scroll thrown by one of the clones, before said clone was dispelled by Shikamaru throwing the scroll back at him. Back with the screen. Damn it, Naruto, stop playing around and do your paperwork. You're the Hokage, for crying out loud. No way. It's boring as hell. And as the Hokage, I'm ordering you to do the paperwork. You're my assistant after all. Yeah, that's a great idea, Datebayo. Naruto argues, sticking out his tongue to prove his point. Hell no, that's a death sentence if I ever saw one. Shikamaru shouted back, crawling a large tick mark as he had dodged the various objects being thrown at him by the clones. He ducked when a brown blur was hurled at him. The hell? Was that the Vardami's wife's cat Tora? He thought as the bane to the all freshly minted cannon was sent sailing the air at great speed. Then why should I do it if it's a death sentence, huh? I didn't sign up for this, Naruto responded, looking for something to throw. What can I use? This is good enough. Yes, you did, Shikamaru shouted back, leaping to side as ramen bowl was thrown at him. Back with the audience. At this point, even the Jonins were laughing at the scene in front of them. It was hard not to. However, one person was not amused, evident by the large tick mark on his brow. Damn it, troublesome blondes are gonna be the death of me. I just know. Oh, the irony. If poor Shikamaru had known that with those words he had doomed himself, he probably wouldn't have quit the shinobi program at that point. Back with the screen. Soft giggling broke both men from their game, turning to face the intruders. Not a face lit up in a Christmas tree, blurring out of view before reappearing right in front of Hinata, sweeping her off her feet, lighting a small eve. Back with the audience. Oh, this should be good. Squealed. Back with the screen. Hina-chan, have you come to save me from the horrors of paperwork? He pleaded with starry eyes as he set his wife back on her feet. Seeing her shake her head, he slumped over and pouted, though only for a moment before being tackled by a small missile, which he caught easily. Tosan, Tosan! Himawari chanted happily, burying herself in her father's embrace. She hardly got to see anymore ever since he had taken the mentality of Hokage and resolved to savor every moment she got to spend time with him. Hey, Imahime. I hope you've been behaving yourself now. Of course, Tosan, the girl answered energetically. That's my girl. Naruto grins, similar to her daughter, back with the audience. Wow, I guess Naruto makes a good dad, huh? Sakura commented, not believing that the knucklehead that often asked her out would make such a great father material. Of course. Hinata defended, only to hide beneath her collar as she became the center of most of the others' attention. Back with the screen. Sorry, Naruto-kun, but we've got to go now. If we want to visit Najini-sama, Hinata explained as she handed off the orange bento to her husband, laughing at his pouting visage. Come on, Himawari, your Tosan has a lot of work to do. Hinata instructed as she took Himawari from her husband, but just before she could leave, he pulled her into an heated kiss. Her knees suddenly felt weak, proving that she was just as in love with her husband since the first time she had taken the admiring stalking him when they were kids. Pulling back, Naruto grinned. I'll see you tonight. He winked with Hinata nodding weakly as she led her daughter outside. Back with the audience. Damn, that was hot. Kiba explained, grinning as he saw the present Hinata blushing up a storm. She got so red that Kiba was sure she had discovered a new shade of red, not known to man. Ino nodded to the brash Inozuka's comment, agreeing the kiss was indeed hot. Back with the screen, Naruto watched his wife and daughter leaving his office, smiling as though about what he planned for tonight. Lost in his thoughts, he didn't notice the shadow creeping towards him until it was too late. His body stiffened and groaned when he heard the Nara verify that the shadow possession jutsu was a success. Now, Hokage-sama, I think you have work to do. The Nara spoke menacingly before behind him, enjoying the small shivers of Naruto's form. Forced to walk towards the desk again, his will Naruto built when he saw the paperwork had somehow managed to double. Damn you, Kakashi-sensei! No wonder you were smiling when I agreed to take that hat from you. You planned this, you bastard! I hope you're happy now. Somewhere else in the village, far away from the Hokage's tower, a silver-haired man lifted his head from an orange book. How long to read one book? And suddenly smiled. For some reason, I have the urge to jump atop of the nearest table and laugh maniacally as one of my evil schemes has come to fruition. The man said to himself, Yosh Kakashi, even at our age, you will continue to nurture our flames. Yes, my eternal rival, you've once again beaten me in our youthful challenges, but you need not worry. If I'm unable to beat you the next time, then I will wheel myself around Konoha 1,000 times. An exhausted voice exclaimed. Back with the audience. Oh, poor my future self. Kakashi hung to himself and his head in manner akin to when one mourns the death of a comrade and considers who he was apparently hanging out with. It was a close friend. Back with the screen. You said something, guy? Curse you and your hip and cool attitude, Kakashi. Back with the audience. Those were the last words that were seen on the screen. Well, that was interesting. Sasuke tried to explain as he witnessed the strange man his sensei apparently hung with. What kind of bet did you lose to willingly seek companionship with that man? Sasuke shook his head as he walked over to the ceiling matrix. He didn't want to know what happened and what had driven those two together. Sasuke reached towards the matrix with 1,000 questions whirling around his mind. What would the matrix show him? Would it be his death? Would he have died at the hands of Itachi? If so, then how did he have a daughter with Sakura? Had Itachi allowed him to live that long only to rip him from his family and do the same thing to his daughter that he did to Sasuke? With that thought, a rare moment of protectiveness raged from filled Sasuke. Sarada might not be born yet, but the fact of the matter was that the girl was an Uchiha. He wouldn't be alone anymore, and though he never admitted out loud based on whatever he had said and saw in Sakura's projection, the rosette on his team had made a great mother. His feelings still jumbled. Sasuke channeled chakra to his feet, causing the seal matrix to come to life with bright blue lights. Soon the illegible scribbling of the matrix twisted and morphed into a screen and burst to life, revealing a much older Sasuke glaring angrily at someone in the sky. Dark hair, check. Dark clothing, check. A permanent scowl on his face, check. Yup, that's definitely Sasuke Teme. Naruto commented out loud, miming a checklist in his hand. Sasuke glared back while the other snickered. Back with the screen, Sasuke Uchiha walked forward, a black cloak engulfing his frame. Slowly he reached his right hand towards the collar of the cloak, and with a slight flicker of his wrist, the cloak was sent fluttering out in the breeze, revealing a white vest thrown over a grey long-sleeveless shirt. Grasping in his hand a sword. Guess we're doing this again, Sasuke said, as another figure made its way beside him. It was a tall man with short blonde spiky hair, 3 whisker marks on each cheek. Was the most unique feature as his orange and black jacket was left open to reveal a black undershirt. Hey look, it's me again. Back with the audience, Naruto said. Wait a minute, is this a fight? Naruto added on, and excitedly largely star apparently appeared in his eyes. Looks like we get to see the 7th Hokage in action, Kakashi commented, and for once placing his orange book back into his pouch, he slipped his hand beneath the hem of his makeshift eye patch / headband and revealed the feared jutsu. The faction caught the attention of the son of the Hokage. Oi Kakashi, don't you think that's a bit excessive? Asuma asked, pausing as he began to light up his cigarette, ignoring the despaired glares from the Genjutsu mistress of Konoha. Not at all, Kakashi stated, his eyes never leaving the screen. We're about to witness a fight of at least 2 Kage-level shinobis, and if there is someone out there that requires both the Hokage and one of us shinobi to fight, it quite easy to conclude that we're dealing with no ordinary enemy. Back with the screen. You can say that again, Naruto commented as he closed the distance and stood shoulder to shoulder with Sasuke. So, same thing as last time, Sasuke? Naruto asked before he was engulfed in flames. His jacket became enshrouded by golden fire, while his undershirt was pitch black under glowing magatama surrounding his neck. Black lines ran through the length of his pants, seeing as his eyes became burnt orange and a black cross settling slit appeared as his pupil. Back with the audience. Sugoi! Naruto exclaimed as he witnessed his older self transform. That's so cool! Meanwhile, the third Hokage's lips were set in a thin line. He too was surprised by the sudden transformation, but as a three-time war veteran, he had seen much stranger things on the battlefield and was able to keep his surprise hidden. Now, however, he had different thoughts. So, this is what the Cubist chakra looks like under control. He thought before he nodded slightly. It seemed Minato had made the right choice in entrusting his son with the strongest Piju. Back with the screen, levitating at 2 feet above them, their opponent glared heatedly as the two shinobi walked forward without a hint of fear. He scowled, his blood-red lips curling in distaste. He wore a set of rather interacted cone, hinting that despite his rustic appearance, he was indeed nobility, with skin as red as blood and dark white hair pulled back into a spiky ponytail. His irises were white, encomposed with black sclera. He was Momoshiki or Sasuke, and right now he was the bane of Sasuke, Uchiha, and Naruto Uzumaki. Back with the audience, Sakura shrieked in fear as the man came into view. Many had reactions similar to hers, either flinching or visibly grimacing as the man checked off all the features normally attributed to a demon. Back with the screen, having enough of the two, Momoshiki shot into action with speed that could cloud follow. He rushed at the two shinobi. Sasuke grinned before he and Naruto ran to meet the towering man halfway. All three figures became nothing more than blurs, and with a resounding boom that sent shockwaves for miles and rooted up the ground, they all met at a single point. The smoke cleared and revealed that Momoshiki had landed on the ground and had blocked Naruto's flaming fist in his left hand and Sasuke's own in his right. Momoshiki growled as they were caught in a stalemate, neither able to get away or any advantage. Back with the audience. No way! Kiba whispered in awe. His eyes were as wide as the moon and his jaw seemed unhinged. The feral boy was of course shocked by the show of the strength that his two teammates had just shown. But how could he not be? This was insane. All they did was ran at each other and interlocked fists and yet had uprooted the area. By their reactions and actions, it was surreal. I guess you were right, Kakashi. You are going to need a Sharingan to keep up with this fight. He cut his eyes back to the younger counterparts of the two living on the screen and seriously couldn't believe that it was the two boys who would have grown to reach that level. The Wheel of Fire, huh? He thought distractedly. I always thought the old man was just spouting his usual lectures when he spoke about this. But if there was ever a generation that inherited the Wheel of Fire, it would be this one, I guess. Back with the screen. It remained that way until Sasuke suddenly lurched forward, slipping from Momoshiki's grasp and landed a heavy kick against the man's chest. The Crimson Man flew backwards from the attack while the duo pressed onwards, giving him no chance to recover. They sped towards his sprawled form and incredible speed, with Sasuke slowly edging Naruto in their race to the opponent. The Uchiha vanished from view before reappearing in front of Momoshiki and slamming into his cut shoulder fist. The Otsutsuki was pushed further back and let out a small groan from the body slam. Luckily for him, he was able to recover in time to block an upcoming attack from the Hokage before countering with a vicious punch, blasting Naruto off to the side. Naruto rolled with the punch, quickly recovering in time to brace off the charges of Momoshiki. He fell into the fighting stance taught to him by the doors of the Mount Moyaboku, but that proved unnecessary as Momoshiki was once again slammed by the Uchiha. Sasuke's advantage only lasted for a moment, for as soon as Momoshiki found his footing, he overpowered Sasuke in a quick bout of taijutsu, smacking him to the side as Naruto quickly took his place. Back with the audience. Hell yeah, get him, Datebayo! Naruto shouted from his seat and entertained by the speedy fight. Honestly, he could only see several blurs converging at each other in rapid succession, but knew well enough that the golden figure shooting across the scene was him. And man, was he strong in the future. Unreal. Joji spoke up for the first time, truly intrigued by what he saw. He had been in his fair shares of spars back at the academy, but this fight was near god level if he said so himself. Besides him, his best friend Shikamaru was caught between being fascinated and troubled by what he saw. Now, if Naruto and Sasuke were this strong, what kind of monster were they facing that it took both of them to take him on? Back with the screen, Naruto attacked with ferocity. He tucked under Momoshiki's swipe and lashed on top of the man's arm, grappling it with no intentions of letting go. Momoshiki growled in annoyance as this lower being held onto him like a sloth on a tree limb. So caught up with Naruto, he was unprepared with Sasuke's rush forward, dropping to the floor and swept his feet out for beneath him. He tumbled like a great tree and fell backwards. Naruto relinquished his hold onto the giant of a man and leapt backwards, leaving Sasuke enough room to straddle the failing man and unsheath his blade. The glistening of silver was the only indication Momoshiki got before Sasuke brought the blade downwards. Momoshiki recovered and planted a foot in the dark-haired man's chest, pushing him off, and the sword flew into the air. Momoshiki sighed in relief for a moment before Naruto appeared above him, catching the loose sword and bringing it down in a deadly arc. Back with the audience. They have wonderful cohesiveness. Kurenai complimented, satisfied with the teamwork both boys man displayed in the fight. Back with the screen, a glowing red sword blocked the strike, pushing him back as Momoshiki rolled out from beneath him and stood atop the Otsutsuki leapt backwards to gain room as more glowing weapons burst from his back and sailed towards the charging Hokage in hail of death. Naruto waved and tossed through the barrage before he closed the gap once again and engaged Momoshiki in a Genjutsu battle. Both men clashed blades once, twice, then thrice before Naruto backed off. Momoshiki was momentarily by the retreated form before Sasuke slipped in between the gap left by Naruto and knocked their sword from him and kicked him in the stomach. His body betrayed his wishes and propelled back before his neck snapped upwards when Sasuke kicked him under the chin with a vicious mule kick. Back with the audience. Guy suddenly jumped from his impossible, shouted in a guy-like fashion. He pointed in a custody finger in the screen direction before blowing. That move the youthful future Sasuke performed was none other than the same technique one does when preparing to execute Lotus. The experienced man explained to those who didn't understand what he was saying. Shyly Sakura raised her hand as though still in the academy. Kakashi-sensei. Yes, Sakura. What is this Lotus thing that the weird man is talking about? Kakashi smiled beneath his face mask. Once because he was glad that his student was attentive enough to notice things and ask questions, and two, she had said the magic words by calling Guy the weird man. He had dreaded the thought of any of his students becoming ensnared in the green spandex wearing cult. Guy obviously was trying to start. He shuddered. Poor Lee, because he was the first victim of Guy. Back with the screen, Momoshiki was launched into the air with the speed of a bullet. Mid-flight, he was able to crane his head to watch where his opponent was and was shocked to see that Sasuke for once was not pressing. He was made known when a golden and short fist smashed into his face. His cheek caved in under pressure and he was hit with enough force that blasted through a large pillar of earth and shattered the rock into pieces. Pain racketed through his system as the heel of the Uchiha was planted on his face, sending him flying back through the pillar and crashing into another landform. A large crater was formed as he slumped off the rock, but before he could gain the bearings, Sasuke attacked him, this time an axe kick to the gut, sending him craning to the floor in a loud boom. Back with the audience. So cool! Way to go, Sasuke-kun! Sakura cheered, wrapping her arms around the neck of the secretly pleased Sasuke. Sasuke himself was left mesmerized by his own prowess and internally had no doubt that he had been able to defeat Itachi if this was any sort of indication of how far he had progressed. Besides her, Power not about it at the lack of his praise on his part. He slumped into his seat before he felt soft hands on his shoulders. He turned to face Hinata, seeing the girl twinkle with her thumbs and a heavy blush on her cheeks. I think you're pretty cool too, Naruto-kun. She stated, and was not prepared for the boy to sweep her up in her arms. You really think so, Hinata-chan? He asked, not at all aware of the affectionate title he had given her. The girl, however, was, and in true Hinata fashion, paused her. Eh? Eh? Hinata-chan? Naruto asked in panic, hoping that he had not done something to hurt her. Kurenai only chuckled, telling the boy that it was fine and Hinata would wake up soon enough. Naruto agreed but couldn't help but sneak a few glances in her direction every now and then. Back with the screen. Now Momoshiki formed his position on the ground and watched as both Naruto and Sasuke converged on his form, and he acted quickly and with a quick flicker of wrist, red chains shot from his hand and wrapped around Sasuke's torso and rolled out of the way. As Naruto attacked went wide, smoke erupted on the screen and Sasuke was sent rolling in one direction. When the smoke cleared, Naruto was seen buried by rubble. The Hokage looked up only to see Momoshiki making hand seals before he clasped his hands together as the rubble converged and crushed his form. Back with the Naruto-kun! Hinata shouted. Back with the screen. Sasuke, angered by Momoshiki's action, charged in an anger clouding his thoughts. So caught up by his emotions, he didn't see that the ground had been turned into mud and had hardened around his ankles until he was already trapped by the jutsu. He grimaced before plunging his sword through the mud and channeled the lightning chakra through this mixture and was rewarded with this escape and just in time to dodge the swipes of Momoshiki wildly a red hammer. Sasuke was forced into the air to avoid the strikes and played right into Momoshiki's hand as multiple rocks converged on his form and turned to hot magma, burning the Uchiha. Sasuke screamed in pain before he was caught in a big explosion caused by Momoshiki. Back with the audience, Sasuke-kun! Sakura was the one that shouted out in concern. Back with the screen. Momoshiki smirked as he believed he had finally rid himself of his two biggest threats, but was proved wrong when he heard a loud roar echo through the air. Momoshiki's hair raised on the back of his neck when, with the blast of golden energy, a massive beast appeared on the screen. Golden eternal energy formed the shape of a large fox, nine tail waves hypnotically behind him, a sneer on the beast's face as it glared at the man. In the center of the beast stood the enraged seventh Hokage. Back with the artist, Kyubi! Babuki screamed, her skin paling to sheets of white. The woman's entire body shivered at it. It was her husband's gentle touch that reminded her that they were only watching the future. Catching her breath, her eyes quickly went to pale form of the young Jinchuriki, quickly noting that he too was shaken from the emergence of the Kyubi. The Kyubi? But how? Why? Didn't the fourth kill it? Sakura sputtered, trying to find out what the beast was. Of most of her scary stories was doing in this fight. Had it somehow returned to finish its job? But that was when she saw that within the fox was a person, and that person was none other than her teammate Naruto. She turned to him, nothing that he was afraid. Had he known about the Kyubi? If so, then how was he connected to it? Naruto, are you? Naruto flinched as he predicted Sakura's question. Should have known it was too good to be true, that his secrets would be kept closed. And eventually would come out despite him wishing he could have taken it to his grave. He tried to explain to her what was going on but failed as his word failed. Fortunately, the third Hokage came to his rescue, telling them all that the Kyubi existence would be explained after the viewing of this is complete. In the meantime, back with the screen, in Naruto's arms was the prone figure of Sasuke, who was not looking good. Half his face was burned, and he was fatigued, but that was quickly dealt with the injection of the Kyubi's chakra into his body. Recovered from his injury, Sasuke stood beside Naruto as the golden fox exploded into a burst of purple. The violet clashed with gold as it ensured the massive fox, wrapping it in with appeared to be samurai armor. With a violet blade in hand, the nine-tailed demon fox roared and charged into battle. Back with the audience, the screen sputtered and vanished, returning back to the scribbles of a ceiling mirrors. A tense silence was in the room as the third contemplated as to how to begin the tale of what happened on the 10th October, hoping that the issue could be resolved. As this is where I'm going to be leaving this part of, guys. I hope you like this one, and if you do, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel, and stay tuned for the next part of What If Naruto Was a Psychopath. As this is Apollo Uchiha, and I'm signing out. Peace!